going to start off with our first question, and our precinct number 7 chair is going to read those questions to the candidates. This is Mr. Steve Weinkle. And if you don't know where precinct number 7 is, that's in Kingsland. It's called the North Kingsland Precinct. We refer a lot to precincts around here because there are 14 of them in Camden County, and we need everybody to be working in their precinct. So I'm going to turn the first 4 questions over to Mr. Weinkle.
Okay. You want to keep that one? I'll keep it.
There you go.
Is this working? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, our first question is for Ms. Haynes. First, please tell us what we need to know about you that qualifies you as the best candidate for this position.
Okay, is this test, does this work?
It does.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is such a good question, and I'm happy to share the answer to that. I have been involved in a lot of different things over my lifetime. Of course, everybody has. But I have been trying to transform the mental health and substance use disorder system in Georgia now for 30 years. I have a son with a mental illness and a substance problem, and for the last 30 years, I have found no help. Whether you know it or not, Georgia is ranked last in mental health care for our people. I have been the president of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Georgia, where we have fought for these issues for a very long time. You need to know that I also got involved with law enforcement. In 2010, we realized that law enforcement is the first responders for people with serious mental illness. And so what happens is when somebody's in crisis, they usually take that person to jail. So I've been very involved with, as I said, law enforcement, with transforming the mental health system. So therefore, I have been at the Georgia Capitol for the last 30 years working with every branch of the government. I have gotten different laws passed. I know my opponent has been a representative, but I have been an advocate, and I am able to get along with most anybody. Now, if it so happens, now y'all don't get sick about this, but if it so happens that we get a Democratic governor, I think I can even work with her. I don't want that to happen, but I think I can even work with her. So having worked with the legislator, getting laws passed, getting involved, I have very good relationships with law enforcement who I think we all are very, very sad that the Democrats started all that business about defunding law enforcement, because now we don't have enough law enforcement officers or 911 operators. Do y'all know that? So therefore, that's a safety issue. So I've been in Atlanta. I've worked hard to get laws changed, and I hope you know that last Friday we got House Bill 1013 passed. Are you telling me my time's up?
You get 5 seconds.
Okay. I was appointed to the Reform and Innovation Commission, and we got that law passed. So I have a record of leadership and getting things done.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Jones, we're going to give you the same question. Please tell us what we need to know about you that qualifies you as the best candidate for this position.
First of all, thank you to the Camden GOP for hosting this, because I believe informed voters is the best weapon when we go to the polls, so that you know who you're voting for, and yet you can make an informed decision about the candidate that's most qualified to represent you. So what qualifies me? I served as a state representative for 3 terms. I have a very successful track record with legislative successes. Those successes are on my website, Facebook page. My voting record is an open book, legislation that I sponsored, how I have voted on every piece of legislation that came before the General Assembly while I served is there on record. So as we go through tonight, for me, don't believe a thing I tell you tonight that you don't independently verify that I'm telling you the facts. Neil Bortz used to say that, and I like the way he always said that. So I believe that past experience is the best predictor of future behavior. So I'm telling you that my past experiences as a legislator and my track record in conservative actions as a legislator are important. So prior to serving, I was in a small business owner-operator for 23 years in Glenn County. Prior to that, very successful business, which actually kind of turned out to be the launching point for me to be in politics, because customers would see us in action, hands-on with our small business, the Express Lube and Car Wash. Some of you may have been customers. Prior to that, I spent 20 years in the corporate world, moved around, and that's actually, it was a corporate relocation that brought us to Glenn County in 1992. And from that point forward, we fell in love with the area and have put our roots down in Georgia. We love this state. I want to help continue to make it a conservative state. I want to continue to help it make the best state to do business. And I want to do things that empower parents in the classroom. I want to remove critical race theory from the classrooms. I want to make sure that women are protected in women's sports. And that some of these things actually, and we'll talk about this, I assume, as the evening goes on. But again, past experience is the best predictor of future behavior. And again, I want you to check me out and look at my record and see if you don't agree that I am the most qualified candidate to hold this Senate seat and represent you. So my fundamental philosophy as an elected official is to represent you first and foremost, then the state of Georgia, and then the leadership and the direction that whatever our executive branch may take in the state. But first and foremost, and my record will bear this out, is I work for you, I am beholden to you, and your wishes will be heard if you contact me about issues. And I promise, and it's been noted that I actually answer my own phone. So when I answer the phone and my number is readily available, I will talk to you and I will give you answers to concerns and questions that you have. May not like all the answers, generally people do when I answer, but I report to you. And I need your vote. Jeff Jones, State Senate, District 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, Senate question number 2. Ms. Haynes, considering your personal and professional experiences, do you feel your strongest focus will be on social issues, education, healthcare, economic development, legal, judicial, environmental, resources, and how does your talent and skill set support that strength?
Hang on just a minute.
Sorry.
But we're gonna let Mr. Jones take that question first.
Sure,
and we'll
sure.
just go back.
I understood we were going to alternate, but I'm either way, whatever, works for me. The answer to that question is yes. Can we go to the next question? No, I'm sorry. Again, I pretty much said it in my introduction. My personal experience, my business experience, my life experiences, my faith, I believe, and my voting record qualify me as the best candidate to be your state senator. Environmentally, I believe conservatives can be environmentally friendly. For example, I led the legislative effort to control Georgia Power's closing of coal ash ponds in the state of Georgia. To be sure, when we emptied those toxic coal ash ponds into our state waters, that we did so in a manner that was not going to cause us damage to the Florida aquifer, which is a pristine water source, most of you know. And when we dump that water into our state waters where we fish, swim, recreate, that water was safe for citizens. So I led that effort in the House for 4 years, I believe it was. And as a result, we didn't pass legislation, but we forced Georgia Power to improve and strengthen its water purification systems before they drained that coal ash water into the system. Education, I've mentioned. I believe we need to ban CRT from the classrooms, and we did pass HB 1084 in the closing hours of the General Assembly, which began to ban that effort, but we need to be sure that our kids are taught how to think, not what to think. CRT is damaging to our schools, our culture, and our communities, so we need to be sure that continues to be stopped. Healthcare, I have a background. One of my experiences was working in a Medicare reimbursed home health care company. So quickly, I have child care, major manufacturing, health care, and retail in my corporate experience. my broad experiences in the corporate world and as a small business person, again, I believe best equip me to serve you and to handle a broad range of areas that come before us as legislators. I have been called by those who I work with and been told that, boy, you're a quick learner. Because there are a lot of complex issues facing our state, no doubt. Number of issues that we need to deal with. I guess number one would be the huge multi-billion-dollar budget that we are dealing with. I support education, and I support the parents' rights to know what's going on in the classroom. I support a parent's Bill of Rights. It's inexcusable that some of the school districts in our state require parents who are given the privilege of looking at curriculum must sign a non-disclosure agreement that they will not discuss and talk about the things that are shared with them about the classroom curriculum. That is fundamentally wrong. We need to make sure that parents are in charge of the classroom, not the bureaucrats and legislators. Judicial, legal, I support the police. In fact, I have a fully vetted plan that could raise $100 million without affecting taxpayers that would go directly to support law enforcement. Fully vetted with all the state agencies. That was ready to go in 2019. So I'm ready when I join the Senate. Because of the Senate structure, I believe I will have greater opportunity to be even more effective than I was in the House as your next state senator.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, Ms. Haynes, same question. Personal and professional experiences, do you feel your strongest focus will be on social issues, education, healthcare, economic development, legal/judicial, environmental resources, and how does your talent and skill set support that strength?
Well, first of all, I'm going to follow your lead. I can handle any of these things. I am going to be your representative. I'm going to be your senator. Whatever you think is important, that's what I will do. But I wanted you to also know that I'm retired from the Department of Education. I was a special needs teacher for 25 years. I have worked in the school system. I was a principal, an assistant principal, and I have done educational research. So education is going to be one of my strengths because I've been there. I told my friend Carolyn the other day, every morning I wake up and wonder if I have bus duty, and I've been retired for a while. So, but my strong issue, my strongest issue, as I said earlier, is that I have been in health care for 30 years. I know that our system is broken. I know that our people are hurting. I have gone all over the 6 counties that we're running. Jeff and I are running for Senate District 3 in 6 counties. And this is the first time I can ever remember that gas prices and food prices are going up and illegal drug prices are going down. The borders are wide open. We have already 200,000 people that have died from a drug overdose. So I'm very, very concerned about health care. I work with legal and judicial people. The bill that I just told you passed, the mental health parity, PARITY bill, is putting more money in mental health courts, drug courts, accountability courts, because people do not need to be in jails and prisons. They need to have treatment. We don't need to spend our tax dollars for people who are sick and need treatment. So I guess the bottom line is I will do whatever you tell me to do. I am not a career politician. I am not a puppet of the establishment. I am not a part of the political elite. I am running for me and for you. I want to represent you. I'm not going to be beholden to anybody or any group. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Senate question number 3, and it's set for 3 minutes. Economic development. And I guess we start with Ms. Haynes? Is that right?
Yes.
We're flipping back, right? Okay. What 2 major issues concern you the most about the economic future of Camden County and Georgia Senate District 3? And how are you prepared to address these issues?
Well, I spoke to the head of the Joint Economic Development Authority last week. His name is James Coughlin. How do you pronounce this? Coughlin. He reported to me that things are going great in Camden County in terms of economic development. My concern would be, because things are going so great, is Camden County going to grow so fast? Because you guys live here and you know how beautiful it is here, right? You know this is God's country, and this is these 6 counties are the most beautiful places in the world, and the people are good people. So everybody's going to want to come here. So we have to be really careful that Camden County doesn't end up being like Gwinnett County or Forsyth County. Remember, they grew so fast, the infrastructure just could not keep up with it. So I guess that's a really good problem to have, is that things are going so wonderful that we're afraid that we're going to be too big, too fast. So that would be one of my concerns. The other concern would be, if that happens, how can we keep up with, and remember, we're getting illegal aliens rolling in here. The other issue would be, how are we going to educate all these people? I met with this guy the other day, and he has a special needs child. He was living in Glenn County. He said, I heard that Camden County had a wonderful school system, so I decided to move to Camden County with my Down syndrome daughter. So we want to keep the schools good. Being an educator, I know the most important thing is that we educate our children and we give them the best education that we can give them. So not only education, what happens when they go into the hospitals? Can we keep up with their health care? That's a concern. And I know our tax dollars will be paying for their food stamps and whatever else they need. So for me, in this district, those would be 2 of the main problems that I would be looking at in Senate District 3, which, do y'all know which counties it is? Camden, Brantley, Charlton, McIntosh, Ware, and Glenn. So those are the counties that Jeff and I will be representing. That's it.
Thank you very much. Same question for you, Mr. Jones. For economic development in this district, what 2 major issues concern you the most about the economic future of Camden County and Georgia District 3, and how are you prepared to address these issues?
I think we would all agree in this room as conservatives that government does not create jobs. Government quite often has regulations that are in place that prevent free enterprise from flourishing. So my focus for Camden County will be to focus on supporting the growth plans from your county commission, your economic development authority, and others in the county who are charged with bringing jobs into Glenn County, and providing whatever support I can provide at the state level to create the incentives, to remove the obstacles, so that businesses, the kinds of businesses that Camden County wants to attract, that those businesses will feel welcome and come to Camden County. So I want to emphasize again that government doesn't create jobs. They quite often obstruct the growth of private enterprise. So let me give you an example of what I've done to help economic growth. McIntosh County was known for years as the oyster capital of the United States. They harvested wild oysters and they canned them and they kind of over harvested and kind of shut down that industry. So Camden County, as a lot of coastal areas, harvest wild grown oysters, and those are used primarily in oyster roasts. So what I learned as a result of an inquiry from a newspaper reporter is the question was, why isn't Georgia participating in the oyster mariculture industry? That industry, very simply, is that producers are allowed to grow oysters in floating cages off the waters of the coast of Georgia. McIntosh County in particular, but everywhere up and down our coast, we are prime locations to grow oysters. So in one legislative year, I worked with all of the regulatory agencies, the producers, Economic Development Authority, all the people who had a thumb in that pie, and we created legislation that legalized the growing of oysters, oyster mariculture, in floating cages off the coast of Georgia. That industry is still growing. The DNR, the Environmental Protection Division of DNR, Coastal Resource Division of DNR, is currently issuing leases to producers to begin the farming of oysters in the floating cages. That industry has the potential to bring $50 million in business to coastal Georgia. Camden County, again, I'm not sure if Camden County is much of an oyster producing area, but we are a seafood area, we are on the coast. But I use that as an example of seeing a problem, understanding the problem, and finding a solution. And in that case, it was creating legislation that removed the legislative barriers that was preventing Georgia from participating in the oyster mariculture industry. So that's my approach, is let's get government out of the way, keep taxes low, make this a great place to bring people who want to work in accordance with the plans of those who are in charge of your actual county. So as I said earlier, I'm a fast learner, and as I understand better the challenges and the needs that the state can help with for Camden County, man, I will roll up my sleeves and I will work hard for you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And we are going to start with you on this question number 4, securing the vote. Considering election legislation introduced in the 2021 and 2022 sessions of the General Assembly, what parts of the new legislation increase election integrity, and is there additional legislation still needed to improve election integrity in the state of Georgia?
We all know that there were problems with the 2020 election. You know, it wasn't hard for us to figure out that something wasn't right when voting polls shut down at 1 a.m. or whatever the time of the day was, came back up, and where we thought President Trump, for example, had won the popular vote, and it turned out these votes mysteriously appeared and the election was not right. One of the key problems that we had with that election was the introduction of drop boxes. The excuse for drop boxes was for COVID. I'm not sure I buy that, but it happened. The other thing that happened is our Secretary of State sent out unsolicited applications for absentee voting to every citizen of Georgia. Those two factors alone opened the door for massive fraud. I mean, I'll use the F word, fraud in our election. So SB 202 was passed in 2021. It improved and tightened up some of the areas that we were all concerned about, and I'm glad it passed. One of the problems, though, with SB 202 is it still allows drop boxes in our polling places. Yes, the law says that they have to have a camera and they can only be open during business hours. So what happens in Fulton County, where we all know there were problems in the 2020 election, if the Camden County Board of Elections folks, who are all Democrats, if they simply look the other way, well, the mules, that's what they're called, the people who bring in ballots and shove them in our drop boxes, they are called mules. What's to prevent Fulton County Board of Elections from allowing the mules to continue to stuff the ballot boxes? So what happened in 2020, 5 counties and 5 states changed and altered the popular vote in the state such that the electoral vote went to Biden. That happened primarily as a result of Fulton County. SB 202 continues to allow drop boxes. So if we have Board of Elections folks who are not honest, we have continued to open up that door to fraud, and we have to stop that. We don't need drop boxes. Georgia has some of the most liberal, easy voting laws in the in the country. Quite frankly, I wish we didn't have quite so many early voting days. I'd be better if we could control that, and because there's plenty of opportunity to vote. And I kind of wish, quite frankly, in an ideal world that everybody voted on election day. We didn't have all the early voting and all the mail-in ballots and all that stuff. But the other flaw in SB 202 is that we should have introduced, in my opinion, no excuse absentee balloting, meaning you can't just request an absentee ballot because you don't want to go to the polls for in-person early voting or on election day. We should require by law that those who request a mail-in ballot certify by what they sign on that form that they have a legitimate reason, they're traveling, they're ill, whatever, but some reason other than I just don't want to go to the polls. We need to tighten up on these areas that are still too loose in our election law that still makes Georgia open to election fraud. Now, I'm going to touch on Dominion real quick. Dominion is forever going to be a dirty word in the state of Georgia. Sorry. So.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We're going to start with you on question number 4. And 3 minutes. Securing the vote.
That's what we just did.
Just went over that one, right? Sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Haynes, same question that Mr. Jones just answered. Considering election legislation introduced in 2021 and 2022 sessions of the General Assembly, what parts of the new legislation increase election integrity, and is there additional legislation still needed to improve election integrity in Georgia?
Well, before I answer that question, I wanted to go back to the other economic development question. The thing that I hear everywhere I go, all over all 6 counties, is we can't find people to work for us. So I think that is a huge issue, is that we don't have a workforce. My son-in-law runs a seafood business in South Carolina, and he can't find anybody to work. So that is a huge issue. We've got to stop paying people to stay home. We've got to because everybody feels better about themselves when they work, right? So back to the question about the 21-22 election. I would like to thank the Georgia legislature for passing our election integrity law. And you know, when they canceled the ball game, that we were doing something right. Right? I mean, that was very clear. So I think it was a very good start. I am very proud of Georgia for doing that. I don't have a problem with the law. I think we need to collect data on the way it's going now from that law, because there were a lot of people hurt over passing that law. There were a lot of businesses that lost money. There were a lot of politicians that lost their reputation. And I know you were. I was very mad about it. And I looked at every YouTube, everything that ever came on, and I think, I don't have a country if I can't go to the polls and my vote count. We cannot let that stand. So I like the law. I think we need to study it and collect data, and if something needs to be changed and something's not working, let's do that. But we as Americans, we don't have a country if we can't go and vote for our leaders and have integrity. And I think that is the most important thing that we can talk about tonight, is to make sure you go vote and that you be sure that your vote counted. On that morning, I had 3 of my very best friends to call me up, I'm sure you did too, and say, I went to vote before I went to work, and they told me I'd already voted. I said, go back. And they said, I don't have time. I don't have time to go back. That was a very dark day in the history of our country. So the question is about the law. I support the law. I'm very proud of Georgia for doing it. That's it.
Okay, at this time, Steve and I are going to make a transition. I'm going to cover questions 5, 6, and 7. Just to back up election integrity from the party perspective, we have Miss June Maxwell in the back. She's our vice chair of candidates and elections. She's already trained 55 or more of our members for poll watching. We did over 1,000 hours of poll watching in Camden County in the 2020 election. And raise your hand if you've poll watched or you're poll working, because we've got some in here. So do be aware that other people may have their vote wrong, but we're Camden County's going to be watching. Okay. So moving on to question number 5. First and Second Amendment Republican principles strongly support the First and Second Amendment. Please share your thoughts on how recent or future legislation can strengthen Georgia's First and or Second Amendment provisions. Ms. Haynes.
Well, first of all, let's get rid of CNN, okay? They speak with forked tongue. Isn't it amazing when you go and look at Fox or Newsmax and you hear the news, and then you switch over to CNN or MSNBC or some of the others, and they aren't talking about stuff that I consider to be very, very important. But because of the First Amendment, I don't know how we can legislate somebody not telling the truth on the news. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But people have a choice what they want to watch. We have a choice, our information source. The Second Amendment, I've had a license to carry a gun since I can remember. My father was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was in World War II. He was an air traffic controller, but they didn't call it that. Is there any military people here tonight? They didn't call it air traffic controller. I can't remember what they called it. But when he came home from the war, and he started smoking cigarettes during the war, unfortunately, he said, Nora, you are going to learn how to shoot a gun. And we used to go out to the Satilla River every Sunday, and we would shoot the gun, and I know how to shoot. So, they just passed that you don't have to have a license, and my opponent over here can probably quote you exactly which House bill, blah, blah, blah. Do you know, Jeff, which bill it was? See, he knows all the numbers of the bills. So I don't know if I feel really good about that you don't have to have a license to carry a gun, or whether I don't, because I had to go get a license. And can I just tell you real quick that when I went to get my last license, they kept trying to fingerprint me. And they said, I'm sorry, ma'am, we can't get your fingerprint. We can't do it. Has that ever happened to you? Well, come to find out, the lady who I will hate for the rest of my life, she said, sometimes when we get old, we don't have a fingerprint anymore. So I'm like, okay, thank you. No fingerprints. You need me to rob the bank for you. I'm your girl. So they did already pass that. But let me say one caveat about the Second Amendment. I told you I have a son with a serious and persistent mental illness. I don't think people that have had illnesses like my son should be able to carry a gun, and that hurts me to say that, but I do think that. I'm not so sure that convicted felons should carry guns either. But as far as I'm concerned, the Second Amendment, and they better not mess with my gun, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Thank you. I got a little off track, sorry.
Mr. Jones, same question.
I'm a strong supporter of yours and my right to free speech. We all know the rule, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater. So there are limits as to what free speech really means. And although this is a federal issue, we can't really do anything about it at the state except perhaps pass a resolution in support. But I believe the social media companies ought to lose their, I believe it's 403 exemption, I think that's the number, which basically excludes them from some of the provisions that media companies otherwise have to follow. That's not right, because clearly in the 2020 election, social media giants and spent millions and millions of dollars, and they clearly influenced our election. So freedom of speech does have a limit where it begins to infringe on our rights as citizens to get the news. So, it's true. We can't believe what you hear on the news these days. I mean, you have to, as I said earlier, I expect you to double check, verify everything I've told you tonight in terms of my record and my experience and what I believe. And that's what it's become with our news. You can't believe what you hear. And I don't know how we locally control that, except that we need to be informed voters. And that's what forums like this do, is make sure that we, the voters, are as informed as we can be. So in that regard, and again, this is a little bit off subject, but it's true. If there's going to be shenanigans, the news media is going to slant the picture of what the candidates are, who they are, and tell us what's. We have to get out the vote. I don't care who our candidates are that win the May 24th primary, from governor on down. We as Republicans have to swarm the polls. We have to exercise our rights of free speech and vote. We need to encourage everybody we know to go to the polls. Virginia showed how that can happen. They elected a Republican governor up there first time in years because they overwhelmed the polls with people who had the same conservative values that we do. Second Amendment. I worked and supported the effort for Georgia to become a constitutional carry state. We were kind of behind in that effort. And what all that constitutional carry means is that if you bought a firearm, you had to fill out a federal questionnaire about your background. So what constitutional carry says is that that's sufficient for the state of Georgia for you to get a firearm, and that the state of Georgia can't impose greater strength of licensing or whatever above that. It just says those federal background checks that are in place. If you bought a gun, you had to go through that. Constitutional carry says that's enough. Because what happens in some of the states, not Georgia, some of the states, the additional licensing requirements are meant to keep people from owning firearms. The best way to stop a bad guy is for a good guy to have a gun. Concealed carry is a great way to do that. If the bad guys don't know that you might be carrying a pistol in your purse or your pocket or your briefcase, that's the best way to stop crime. Arm the citizens legally through constitutional carry, and that's how we'll take care of some of our crime problems.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. This next question is the last content question, and it is a Camden County specific question. And one of the things, I had some advisement from our members on asking questions, but in the midst of so much that's going on in Camden County, sometimes we don't know some of the finer details, and I'm including this question because I feel like there's not much awareness about it, but it's a very important question. It's about workforce. In 2012, the Georgia Department of Labor Commissioner announced the closing of the Camden County Department of Labor office. Local advocates and an intergovernmental agreement between Kingsland and St. Mary's provided funds and resources for utilities in a donated St. Mary's facility. This collaboration extended Department of Labor presence in Camden County up to 2017 before, without notice, moved all services to Brunswick. Camden County employers and job seekers struggle, particularly after the pandemic, to have access to Department of Labor services. The November election will determine the outcome of a new labor commissioner. As our future senator, how will you pursue improving Camden's access to workforce support and resources for Camden's employers and job seekers? And Mr. Jones, that's your question.
Yes, there is an election for labor commissioner, and I personally think that we had a huge, monumental failure in our unemployment system. Now, admittedly, in their defense, the number of unemployment claims that were processed were overwhelmed the system. But I kept hearing stories that those folks were not in the office. And we didn't handle the COVID response to unemployment issues probably in the most effective way. So I think new labor commissioner, and one of the candidates running who I happen to support, won't mention the name here, I think could fix some of those things. All right, so Having an office in Camden County, I'm sad to say, will not guarantee your county citizens have access to a person-to-person contact. Glenn County has an unemployment office. I'm not sure it's yet open to the public. It was shut down for 2 years during COVID. They don't answer the phone. They don't answer the door if you go knock. So I'm not sure just the fact of having an unemployment office in Camden will improve the access of Camden citizens to the unemployment process. What we need to do is we need a Department of Labor Commissioner who understands customer service is what this is all about. The citizens of this state are customers of the state agencies. I come from a background in my corporate career and as a small business guy, customer service comes first. And so as your state senator, I will give you good customer service. So if funding an unemployment office will help access in Camden, I will support the addition of that line item to the state budget to reestablish an office here. It's just unfortunate to say having an office here is not going to guarantee greater access. We've got other endemic problems with the way our unemployment system and the systems are running that need to be addressed at a very high level. You can't always plan for the worst case. COVID and all the unemployment claims was a worst case scenario, but we can certainly have disaster plans in place that if our unemployment claims spike by 200%, we have at least a plan in place to respond. And that was, we had a Department of Labor Commissioner who was totally inept and incapable of handling the way that whole thing unrolled. So it's very unfortunate. Again, having an office is not going to guarantee access. We've got to start at the top of that department and improve customer service.
Ms. Haynes?
Well, for me, first of all, we need more economic opportunities for families, and we need to stop paying people to stay home. That's two things right there. The third thing is we need to get rid of Biden because he's destroying our economy. That's the third thing. And I don't know how we're going to do that because what's coming behind that is not so good either. I think we all agree on that. But I know when Mark, what's his last name, the commissioner?
Butler.
Thank you. Mark Butler first got in there. They took vocational rehab out. Did you know that? So they separated it out. So since I'm a person that really loves to make sure that people with disabilities have job opportunities, I have also been very disappointed with vocational rehab. I hope nobody that works in there is in here. But the Department of Labor, it is really true what Jeff said. They have not done a very good job. Our people who can work and want to work should be able to get a good job. I did not know they took the office out of Camden. You all know we have 159 counties. We have more counties than any other state except for Texas. So one of the things that I want to do as your senator is I want to make sure that all state agencies run efficiently and effectively, because I retired from the Georgia Department of Education. The first day that I went to work there, they said, look, Nora, we've got a budget surplus. We need you to go down to Borders and buy all their books. I'm like, what? I went down to Borders and bought all their books. We had semis, and this is the truth. They had semis picking up those books, and I guarantee you to this day they're still sitting in a warehouse. We pay taxes. We pay a lot of taxes, and I am tired of our agencies being so sloppy and doing what I just told you. Now, is that not ridiculous? They had so much money, they just went and bought, and we have about 80 state agencies. And that is not unusual. That's one of the things that I really want to do, is to make sure that all of our agencies, including the Department of Labor and vocational rehab, are spending my tax dollars properly. And I know you feel the same way, because I am tired of raising taxes and I'm not getting anything better.
All right, thank you. We're on our last question, and I understand you all have been doing door knocking around the county, and you've heard what people are interested in and concerned about. This is your opportunity for closing remarks and cover anything we did not cover in the questions. Ms. Jones, you go.
Miss Jones or Miss Haynes?
Miss-
Y'all, you know my name. Where is Miss Jones?
Y'all remember the name Jones. Just remember the name Jones. It's okay. It's okay.
So Murphy's Law, I told you, a minute is going to mess up. So sorry.
That's okay. So when Jeff and I first met each other and we were at this event together, this woman came up to me and said, well, hey, Miss Jones, just like you did. And I said, no, it's Haynes. And by the way, that's my husband back there, Greg Haynes. And she said, but I thought your name was Nora Jones. Nora Jones. So
I don't want you to lose time on your question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so my closing remarks are, I would like to thank you for doing this. I appreciate you having me here, and I would be honored to be your state senator. As I told you before, I am not a career politician. I am not a puppet of the establishment. I am a fighter, and you can ask people that know me. I am a fighter, and I will push back against the radical left's nonsense policies. Protect our natural resources, secure our elections, safeguard our gun rights, even if I don't have fingerprints. Back the blue, and I will put you first. If you want an energetic conservative that will fight like hell for Southeast Georgia and our conservative values, please vote for me, Nora Lott Haynes. I will work hard for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. And Mr. Jones.
Jones? Anyway. Again, thank you all for hosting this. It's a great opportunity, as I said at the beginning and a couple times in my remarks, is an educated electorate is the best weapon we have to elect good people in office. Check out my record. I said earlier, and I will say again, the best indicator of performance on your behalf is past track record. I have that track record. I was recently endorsed by the Georgia Republican Assembly, kind of the conservative wing of the Republican Party in the state, and Georgia's of Conservative in Action. Those endorsements, I think, are an indication of my conservative views and values and how I have brought those to the legislature. Again, I proudly served for 3 terms in the legislature, and I would be proud to be your next state senator in Senate District 3. And I need to add here that you are hearing the 2 top candidates in the Senate race, and I'll just let you figure out who I think is the best candidate, but I'll leave that to your judgment tonight. But thank you all for being here. Please check me out. I've got campaign stuff, signs, magnetic bumper stickers. There's a piece on your chair that talks about 3 issues that I believe are critical to the state of Georgia, and there are many. Believe me, the list is long, and I have a detailed list of what those are, and they can be found on my website. But in a forum like this, we can't cover everything. So I will work hard for you. I will provide you good customer service. I answer my phone. I answer emails. And I am responsive to the citizens that brung me to the dance. So elect Jeff Jones, State Senate, District 3. Check me out. Thank you.
Okay, we are grateful to these 2 candidates tonight. I'm going to go real quickly over some things. Mr. Royal's going to be showing them up here. Do get these dates down. That we have them on our Facebook page and several other places. If you're looking for information about the local Republican Party, most everything is some format of Camden GA GOP. The website is .org on Facebook and Instagram. You separate that out. If you're interested in poll watching or poll working, please see Ms. Maxwell in the red jacket back there. Primary candidates. A lot of people don't understand primary elections. You're going to go in and you're going, hopefully, to request a Republican ballot. we have at least 41 Republican candidates on the May 24th ballot. We're just getting to meet a few of them. On this list, where's our list, Mr. Royal? On this list, the yellow ones, the ones in yellow, are the ones, keep going, are the ones that have touched, either visited or sent materials to Camden County. And we still have a few more to go. And so as a person who's the chair, and I'm trying to get these candidates down here so you can meet them, you know, if they're not going to come see us, how are they going to know about Camden County? And I know there's 159 counties, but we need to be able to meet all of these people. Be looking on our website, our Facebook page. During the primary, officers and precinct chairs cannot endorse a candidate because the party is supposed to be selecting those candidates. So it makes it a little bit difficult, but you need to be a resource to yourself and to others. And as you go on our social media and you find out events, a group over here sponsoring or hosting someone, you need to, if there's an opportunity, you need to get there. So find out who those candidates are. Also on our Facebook page, we have 41 days of candidates. That started way back in March. I think it's going to finish up around April 22nd. And we feature a candidate each day on the website. So check those out. Mr. Royal, keep scrolling. Our officers and precinct chairs. You can also, if you're a member, you can go into our member files. You can pull up our officers and precinct chairs. And we have other organizations as well. The Camden County Republican Women will meet the second Thursday of the month. They always meet the second Thursday. The party meets the first Thursday. This month, 2 days from now, they have a whole list of speakers, lots of speakers that they're going to meet Thursday. Also, Donna Schwartz, would you stand up? The ladies are having a powder puff handgun raffle, $20 a ticket, 6 for $100. Check out the Facebook page, and also that what goes with that handgun is a concealed carry purse. We are looking for party volunteer positions. You need to contact me to get an application for nomination. Vice Chair of Precinct Development, Precinct Chairs 9, and that should be 13. Second, 2 precinct captains for precinct number 9, because that precinct is so large. If you look at, it's really important to look at the breakdown of precincts and how they're functioning. Precinct number 14 has an 84% voter participation rate.
Wow, that's amazing.
Precinct number 14 is Osprey Cove and Shadalong. People complain because they think other precincts don't get, or other areas of the county may not get attention or whatever. But it's important for precincts to establish the voting power, and each of our precincts should be able to do that. Even though precinct number 9 has a very high number of voters in it, its voter participation rate needs some work, and therefore it needs some leadership. I want to go quickly over the GOP ballot advisory questions. I'm not going to read these to you, but we've got them posted on our website. Keep scrolling, Mr. Royal. Here are some real stumper questions for you, okay? Now, these questions were formed by the Georgia GOP Executive Committee. I don't recall them requesting input from the county parties, but here's a couple of the questions. Let's see. The Biden administration has stopped building the border wall, and illegal border crossings have dramatically increased. Should securing our border be a national priority?
Duh.
Okay, that's a Republican question. There's 8 of them on the ballot, and we have them on our website. You can go to GAGOP, and in their search bar, type in ballot questions, and all 8 of them will pop up. You may also want to study the Democrat questions. They're pretty interesting. Okay, so look over those. And so the next time that we're in this format, now keep in mind, this kind of wound up being a little bit of a practice run. We were supposed to have 5 people here tonight, okay? We had 2. We had a lot more time to go over some things. The original plan is they would have had 3 questions apiece. Y'all let me know which ones I should have left out. But when we will meet on the 26th here again, Mr. Caden St. Rose will be here again to record what we're doing so we can pass that information on. But that's no reason not to show up. We need people here, and we need we need some input on those questions as well. Any of that information goes to Chair at Camden GA GOP. We keep these questions sequestered. We don't share those questions ahead of time. We want to be able to meet the candidates and see how they think on their feet. And so on the input that you give us helps us form those general questions so that we can have those prepared. That April 26th event will have the 4 Board of Commissioner candidates, Mr. Gary Blount, Jim Goodman, Martin Turner, and Steve Weinkle. I believe 2 of those candidates are here tonight. Would y'all like to stand? Mr. Weinkle and Mr. Turner. Okay? So you'll see them at the April 26th forum. Also, our House 180 candidates, Mr. Stephen Sainz and Mr. Cody Smith, and they are both here tonight too. Mr. Sainz and Mr. Smith. So we won't be going over the ballot questions and any of that other information at the forum. But we will be getting to meet our candidates. You have a lot of material in your chair when you arrived. I realize you may not want to take that home with you. Put it in that white box as you go out so we can redistribute these candidates' materials. Please hang out and socialize, and if the candidate didn't answer a question you had, I'm sure they'll be glad to answer it now. Anything else for the good of the order?
Can I say something?
Ms. Haynes wants to say something. Do you object to that, Mr. Jones?
No.
Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Ziggy's. We're having the swing-a-medallions. Be there or be square on St. Simon's.
Vote Jeff Jones, Senate District 3. Take a sign and a bumper sticker. Equal time, correct?
Any signs in the front yard that you want, please take them because I have to take them back home. So it's okay to pull those signs up, okay? Thank you.